So I'm just going to check the levels real quick.
Okay.
All right, you want to just talk for me a little bit?
Sure. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Nervous as shit.
Really?
Oh, yeah, totally.
I'm just very hungry.
Oh, that's
Don't
for
be
you,
nervous.
everyone.
Oh, thank you. I will totally eat it. Now you'll really hear the levels.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Mike McCusker. You're listening to BlindSpots, episode 10. We'll forget for the moment that I haven't put out episode 7, 8, or 9 yet, and we will just know that those are coming. They're on the way. They'll be here soon. But right now, it's episode 10, Union, with my very special guest, Candace Moore. Here we go.
Okay, we're in.
Okay.
So go ahead, start talking.
Hello.
Thank you for doing this. This is
Of course, yeah, I'm happy to.
Cool. I know you were a little bit hesitant, or you said
I hate
you
doing interviews.
Yeah. And as we were getting closer to it, I was like going through my own process to prepare, and like I, was checking in with you on Instagram and stuff like that, and seeing you kind of like processing your own anticipation.
Yeah, I just feel like I need to get out of my comfort zone, so I'm doing it even though I don't want to do it. No, like that came out wrong. I do want to do it. I want to be somebody who's not nervous about questions. Like, if I had a list of questions ahead of time, I'd feel so much better.
Yeah.
But fire away.
If I could come up with a list of questions ahead of time that I would then feel confident that I would actually remember and ask, I would totally do that.
Perfect.
I mean, that's kind of the idea of the show, is to kind of create an opportunity to sort of have this sort of free form, platform for just conversations, like just those random kind of like interesting conversations where new connections can be made, new ideas can come about.
I feel like it's a lot of pressure. Like, what if I don't have anything, like, I don't know, exciting to say? Or what if my conversation isn't that interesting? But let's forge forward and see how we do.
Just so you know, I'm in exactly that same place.
Okay.
You began blogging before you were doing YouTube videos, right?
Yes.
When did you make that transition from just writing to actually creating your own content, creating videos?
Well, initially, I started my blog after I graduated from yoga teacher training, and I was like always a really big blog reader, and I just never found anything that was out there that I wanted, that I was like totally interested in. Like, I was reading fashion blogs or, whatever, but there was no yoga blog out there that was like modern and welcoming, and like everything out there was either not updated frequently, or it was like you have to be X, Y, or Z, and if you happen to drink coffee or eat meat, then like you can't be in a club. Like, it was just like outrageous. So I wanted to start something that I wanted to read, because I thought maybe other people would be out there also looking for something similar. And then I started the YouTube probably pretty soon. I don't remember when exactly, but probably pretty soon afterwards, because I felt like I just graduated yoga teacher training. I have a lot to share, and I know that, for me personally, as a yoga student, prior to being certified, it was really expensive to get a membership at a yoga studio. So I felt like, well, maybe I can just offer something for people on YouTube. Like, I'm not the world's greatest teacher, but surely I can offer something, that will be valuable to people. So I started creating YouTube videos to kind of go along, and then that just kind of added to the content that I was creating on my blog.
So had you ever done any videos before? Or like, did you have any experience with the sort of the technical?
I did. I took a class in high school, and like the final project was to make a music video. We had to just kind of pick a song and then create a narrative that went with it, without any there wasn't any dialogue or anything. It was just shooting, a story to go along with the music. And so I had a little bit of a background in terms of, editing and shooting, and just very minimal. It was a high school video class, so it was nothing too crazy. And then I was just kind of like playing with that, on the side for fun. I made videos of my dog when I first got him, and so it was kind of natural to just go into yoga videos when I started creating my own content for my channel.
What were some of the biggest hurdles to starting the YouTube channel? Because I found you on YouTube. Actually, it was last winter, and it was kind of during a period of time in my life where some things had kind of fallen apart. It was a difficult time, And I was actually living in my parents' basement, which was humiliating.
It's not a good place to be.
Totally humiliating.
Even if it's a great basement, like you don't want.
It wasn't a great basement. It was not a great basement. But even if it was, I think we all have those experiences of sort of falling down in some way in life.
Right.
And so that's where I was down.
Yeah.
And through that process, I was never a person who would do yoga videos online, for instance,
right.
or exercise at home.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, didn't have anything else to do and just needed something to like get myself moving in a direction, any direction.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went on YouTube one day. I was like, I'm going to start doing yoga every morning.
Yeah.
And searched through some videos, and I don't remember the first one I came up with, but it was one of yours. And that really became something that started a momentum.
Yeah.
That kind of brought me.
Awesome.
Yeah. And in that process, as I sort of started to emerge from that, and then was looking at the larger business model and seeing the website, and just kind of seeing how your whole Yoga by Candace YBC kind of enterprise is put together, I started seeing some of the older videos and noticing just from my own sort of creative eye some of the different things you were trying. I think there were a couple of videos where there was like some music in the background, but it was like piano music.
Yeah, so what was it? It must have been iMovie I was using at the time to edit. I started editing with iMovie, and they offer like a couple different jingles that you can use, and they're only so long, so I had to like loop it.
Yeah.
And it kind of started to feel like it's a small world. It was just like, whoa, too much. And then also you get in trouble using copywritten stuff. So one of the things people complain about is that there's no music, and they don't understand that I literally cannot use music, or I'll get a strike against my YouTube channel, or I have to like use somebody else's music who has given me permission. But honestly, it's such a headache to try to figure all that out, and also not all of us like the same kind of music.
That's
so true. A really great solution is to just put your own damn music on. You know what I mean? Like, some people like to practice in silence, and some people like drums, and some people like chanting, and some people like ambience, and some people like rock and roll. I like silence because then you as the user have the freedom to put your own music on in the background.
Create your own soundtrack.
Yeah.
When I would go to yoga in studios, the music was always like a very important part of that process, like connecting to the beat and the way the songs flowed through the teacher's flow. So when I was doing the videos and there was no music, at first I was like, I tried to put on some music, but then I've kind of actually found something in that silence that was it was a different kind of connection to the movement.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think you have more of a connection to your breath. You can kind of hear your own breath. You can focus on the teacher's voice, and a lot of teachers don't teach with music. It's like one of their rules. So it's just nice to try different things, and I think for people who are upset that I don't include music, they can just put it on themselves in their background at their own home.
There's lists, probably pages and pages long, of different things that people really love about what you do, but then also have issues with.
Oh yeah.
I know that there's a couple of pet peeves that you have of
One of my biggest pet peeves is when people are like, "This is too fast." It's like hopping into a class in which you're training for a marathon when you really just wanted to go for a walk. Do you know what I mean? There are different styles of yoga, and the particular style, it's vinyasa flow that people are always commenting on, that it's too hard, it's too fast. And vinyasa literally means flow. You're supposed to move with your breath. You're not supposed to pause or have very long stretches within the class. If you're looking for a slow stretching style of yoga, you're going to want to do a hatha yoga, or you might want to do a restorative yoga, which is again very, very slow. Or you may want to
yin yoga.
Yin is kind of like restorative. Restorative moves a little bit more, but yin is like maybe you'll do 5 poses in an hour and a half long class.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think I would have the attention span for that.
Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, some of the craziest friends that I have, they love yin yoga because it's an opportunity to just be quiet and to just chill out, and you find yourself almost in this weird space of consciousness where you're not really awake, but you're not totally asleep either. So it's a really good way actually to develop flexibility and stress management, to deal with stress management and that kind of thing. Just going back to the pet peeves, that's just my biggest thing. I wrote a whole blog post on it to try to teach people what the different styles of yoga are, and to make sure you're looking for what you want when you search on YouTube. You can't just put in yoga because there's so many different styles.
I think that's actually what I put in.
Yeah.
It's just yoga. And so for you, you've always found that vinyasa has been kind of the thing that you gravitate more towards, or just kind of feel more of a connection with?
I mean, initially, I started doing yoga because I felt like it was a really good way to stay in shape.
Yeah.
And it also kind of helped me deal with just the craziness that was going on in my life. I was a school teacher, my first couple of years of teaching, I always went to yoga because I thought it killed two birds with one stone. It helped me to just deal with my stress, but it also helped to keep me in shape because I didn't have time to go to the gym and go to yoga and, and live my life.
Yeah.
So I started with vinyasa that way, and then over time, it kind of became more than just a way to stay in shape. It became deeper and more personal and more introspective.
Was yoga something for you that you found and then later on when you were going through some difficult times in your life found that was something that, kind of helped get you through? Or was it something you found in the middle of?
No, my mom
struggle?
dragged me to a yoga. But my mom is she's so funny. She's the person who does all the cool stuff before it becomes cool. Like in the 90s, there was no health food store around us. So she's just called up Frontier Co-op. She got all her friends together, arranged a giant bulk order, and then had them deliver it to her house. And she was the health food store. And then before yoga became mainstream, at 15 years old, she was dragging me up to this place called Kripalu, which is very, very big in the yoga world. It's just this yoga center in the Berkshires. And I say she dragged me because I was 15 and I was a brat. The last thing I wanted to do was hang out with my mom, right? So she dragged me to yoga class, and I really loved it, but I never wanted to give her the satisfaction of letting her know that I loved it.
Yeah, I can relate to things like that.
Yeah, so I took a couple classes, and she'd say, "How was it?" And I'd be like, "It was fine." I knew that it was available to me from a very young age, and it was just one of my very first jobs was at a gym, and it offered yoga. And they had this very eclectic, really super cool yoga teacher come up from New York City, and I grew up in Connecticut. And so every weekend I would take yoga with her and be like, man, she's so cool and she's so zen. But then they would also go out and drink wine and eat cheese afterwards, and I was 17 years old, so I couldn't play their games. So I felt very left out. No, but I always knew that it was available to me. I felt the benefits even if I couldn't maybe understand what was really going on in my brain and my body in terms of stress management, that sort of thing. And I just kind of did it sporadically until I got Lyme disease, and then I was what am I going to do with my life? Because this sucks, to be so sick. I was so sick, battling Lyme disease. And, you really don't appreciate what you have until you lose it. And so I really had lost my health totally, and said to myself, okay, if I ever get better, what am I going to do? What would you do? And I said, well, I would maybe go get that yoga teacher training that I've always wanted to get. Yeah. And that's what I did, and here I am.
I highlighted a part in your book where you talked about taking out your journal when you were sick and writing.
Yeah.
Take yoga teacher training, travel alone, do all these things, and you were reflecting on it and remembering the girl that you were, and that you were still that girl.
Yeah.
And I was reading that the other day, just after you announced the yoga teacher training, which is super exciting. What has been the path from just taking that step to becoming a certified yoga teacher and then kind of building your own brand?
Well, so when I finished my yoga teacher training, I felt oh my God, there's no way I can teach a class. I just felt super unprepared, even though in hindsight, I knew more than the regular person who's just going to a yoga class here and there. You know what I mean? I do feel I did have the tools, but I just didn't have the confidence maybe. And so I think that confidence comes from faking it until you really do make it, and also practice. So that's what I did. I just taught a lot, I wrote a lot, I studied a lot, I went to a lot of master classes. I just try to kind of develop my own voice and my own craft, because the yoga market is so saturated, so I just tried to figure out what I had to offer that was maybe special. I mean, hopefully special, and kind of hone it, and then develop something from it that I could, use in the future. And I think that's where the Namaste yoga teacher training came in. Lots of yoga teacher trainings, they don't accommodate the regular person. If you are overweight and feeling uncomfortable in your own skin, or you're looking around and you're the only person that looks like you in the class, that can probably feel alienating. So to not have a teacher who knows what to say or how to cue you, you might feel really out of place and be like, man, this is not for me because I can't do it with my legs like this, So one of the things I wanted to do is educate my trainees in how to cue for different types of bodies. We're not all slender little bendy people. There's so many different types of people, and it would be nice to just have a basic knowledge on how to cue them. Another thing I noticed is that there isn't a whole lot of training in terms of strength. I think a lot of people rely on their mobility and their flexibility to get them through a yoga class. And a lot of times you'll see shoulder injuries as a result of, for example, chaturanga, doing the chaturanga incorrectly just because there's a lack of strength. So I really wanted strength to be a major component of my teacher training so that people would know how to really just take it to the next level and how to keep their alignment on point when they're practicing.
It sounds like that's a theme in a lot of your work, how you talked about in your blog, wanting to write what you didn't see out there, speaking to the things that you didn't really see being spoken to. In the teacher training, looking to highlight and intentionally sort of address some of the things that you didn't see being addressed, and that idea of speaking to the person who feels out of place, who feels alienated, like what was the word you used. Is that something that kind of comes from your own experience in life?
I don't like to be a victim. I will always put myself in a place where I feel empowered, and if there's like negativity all around me, I'll take myself out of that and be around better people or get myself into a better situation.
Is that something that you've sort of learned to do, or is that just a natural way that you've
I think it's just a natural way that I've pretty much always been. I think that whole thing, speaking to the things I didn't see and looking out for everybody, might stem from having that background as a teacher and just being educated on how to teach inclusively and how to, because you can't, no child left behind. Like you have to do differentiated instruction. There are people who learn visually. There are people who, have different learning abilities, and that you need to accommodate. You need to accommodate for everybody. You can't just forward with the people who are straight A students or super bendy or whatever. Like, you need to include everybody, because I firmly believe that everybody has something to offer. Everybody brings something to the table, regardless of what they look like or what they have or whatever. So I just think we are all stronger if we move together, rather than if we just take the elite group and move forward.
I think that was something that spoke to me just from the time that I found the YouTube channel and just the place that I was at. I imagine that that's probably a lot of the feedback that you get, and a lot of what many people who follow you connect with about your work is that for people who are struggling with something, for people who are going through a dark time, that feeling of alienation, that feeling of isolation, of being sort of alone, something in what you do speaks to that. That's why I was asking about that. And I know that you've had your own experiences with Lyme disease, which you write about in the book, which is kind of sort of a central, kind of catastrophic time in your life.
Yeah.
I know you've written a lot about depression, running in your family, and your own experiences, anxiety. Anxiety about being on the podcast.
Right.
So it sounds like that's something that you look to speak to, right? It's that idea of yoga being union.
Yeah, yoga being union, and that we're all in this together. And also that if there's one thing I've learned from, losing my health to the point where I needed someone else to dress me in the depths of my Lyme disease, or in just my own, you mentioned mental illness running in my family. I have a giant family. My mom is one of 12. So I would look around and I would see people with depression, with addiction issues, with whatever. That wasn't it. Of course, they're awesome, incredible people, but everybody's got something. Absolutely. And that was the central thing that I've always really noticed. And despite everybody having their own stuff that they're dealing with, everybody also brings something amazing to the table. And in my deep depression with losing my health and being in that awful spot with Lyme disease, I just felt like I had been living my life kind of small, and moving forward, I just didn't want to do that anymore. Life is just way too short to feel alone, because I know, even though, in your darkest moments, you feel like, God, this is the end of the world, but really, once you start to open up, you realize everybody else around you is dealing with something. And what's so mind-blowing to me is there is no emotion that you could feel that somebody else in the world has not also felt. You're never ever really alone, so that's what I wanted to kind of say, and that's what I try to do through my teaching. And it's really an honor that you say that I kind of speak to that in the YouTube channel. I just want people to know that it's more than just your downward dog and your forward folds. This is your life, and you are here for a purpose, and you have, you bring meaning to the world, and you mean something. I think that's what everybody in this world wants to know, is that they matter and that they're cared for and that they're not alone. And that's what I try to do in my teaching.
Absolutely. Can you talk about that time from, going through, your health issues to sort of having the seed of this dream start to take root in that kind of cloud? And then you recovered your health and you went, so at some point you stopped being a teacher,
School teacher.
Teacher. And you kind of went on this journey. You started on this path towards what you're doing now.
Yeah.
I imagine at some point it was just you feeling, well, you probably still feel like just regular you, but
yes.
Outwardly observing, there had to have been a transition from like just kind of being like Candace, just like a regular person, to like, things started to take off, and you starting to be more of, I don't like using the word brand because I think it takes away from a lot of the content and the meaning of what we're talking about in terms of helping people.
That shift.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that because I still feel like I'm just a girl in her home office, clicking away, typing away, and her computer. Like, I don't feel like I'm anything special. I don't think that I have any special quality. And it just kind of all naturally progressed. Like, I quit my job as a teacher because I'd gotten married, and my now ex at the time, he was a professional hockey player. So we traveled from place to place to place, and we were never really in one place for an extended period of time. I couldn't hold down a job because he was going to hire me for like 7 months,
Yeah.
I quit teaching, and honestly, that was the greatest blessing because I loved teaching, but I hated the like administrative stuff, the behind the scenes stuff, the fact that I would have to go home and still grade papers and plan lessons for like another 3 or 4 hours. So that was really tough. I was happy to quit my job, but I was also very happy that I had gotten that master's in education because I feel like I use it every single day, whether it's in marketing or it's in my own teaching. Or I think one of the biggest blessings of being kind of like one woman show. I mean, not that I am, that's so horrible to say because I do have a couple of people who work for me, but starting off, it was just me. So now I have to do my own filming, my own editing, my own planning, my own wardrobe, my own photos, editing all that stuff myself, writing the content, publishing it, figuring out like what is search engine optimization? How do I do that? How do I reach out to brands and begin to monetize this stuff? Like, how do I do social media maintenance? All of these things, I have to wear many hats. But in a way that was so cool because I'm not a person who can do the same thing every single day, and every single day it's different for me, or there are many facets to what I do. So from there I was the teacher, then I was the blogger, and initially my friend and I did a wedding blog, and
oh, that's right. I remember reading about that.
Yeah, it was, I love her. We're still great friends, but it's not advised to go into business with your friend. So I learned a little bit of, about blogging through that. And then I just decided that I was going to do more of what I enjoyed doing. Like, since I was married, so I was like, well, I don't want to plan weddings anymore. What can I write about now?
Yeah.
And then I got really sick. And then when I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, then I took my teacher training. But I was still very sick, actually, when I took my teacher training, but not as sick as I was. And I really want to point that out for anybody listening who says, like, oh, I want to do this, but I don't feel like I'm ready. You're never going to be ready, so just do it now.
Yeah. How psyched are you about having your own teacher training now to present?
I'm excited, but I'm mostly nervous. I get nervous about, like, a lot of the stuff I do, especially when it costs a lot of money, because I watched this comedian, I forget his name. He's like this Italian guy, and he talks about immigrant parents and how he's like, they'll put you to work for 8 years old. He's like 8 years old, I'm watching TV, and my dad walks in and he says, go get a job, go start a business. And that's so, my biological father's from Ecuador, but my mom, she's, I guess, first generation American. Her mom is from Lebanon, her dad is from Wales. I've been working since I can remember. I mean, my very first job was like a mother's helper when I was 7 or 8 or something. But anyway, I've always worked very hard for my money, and I hate to feel like I've been taken advantage of. And I'm not stingy with my money either. Like, I'm still trying to figure out like what my money talk is. Like, what's the story about money with me? Because I'm weird about money. I will spend however much on organic this or that food, or like I'm kind of a jeans snob. Like, I'll buy really high-end jeans only because they last me for 7 years. Like, I haven't bought a new pair of jeans. I can't remember the last time I bought a new pair. It's been 7 or 8 years. All that to say is I don't mind shelling out money for high quality stuff, but it better be high quality.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to charge however much for a retreat or a workshop or a teacher training, like, I want to deliver the absolute best product. Not only because I don't want anyone to walk away feeling like, ugh, that wasn't worth it, but also because I found that the best form of advertising is word of mouth. So if somebody leaves and they had an awful experience and they tell their friend, or worse, they have a strong following on social media and they put it out on there, like, that can take down a whole business, you know? So I'm excited about the teacher training, but I'm not letting that excitement, you know, blind me. I'm trying to be very grounded and make sure that each lesson plan is written and everybody who's on my team knows exactly what we're doing, and we are very serious about creating not only a great experience but a great education for the people who come to take our training.
What are some things that you think make your teacher training stand out or set apart from, you know, some of the experiences that you talked about with other teacher trainings that you felt were lacking in certain ways?
I think we'll have a very strong focus on building strength. I think that's something, as far as I know, that nobody or not many teacher trainings do. So that in alone, it sets itself apart. I also think that it's really important to welcome everybody from all walks of life, and whether you eat meat or not, you're welcome at my retreat. We're also having like a very strong health component in terms of like gut health. So we have a nutritional therapist. Her name is Carly Smith from fairygutmother.com. She's going to be there to teach people about what goes on internally, and also how to feed yourself and nourish yourself so that you can be of optimal health, and just a very strong foundational education in gut health, which I think will go a long way, because a lot of people come to yoga because they're dealing with some health issue. I think yoga is a great complement to dealing with health issues, but I think health issues more often than not have to do with what's going on internally, and more often than not it has to deal with what's going on in your gut.
Just in terms of strength building, when did you start Olympic weightlifting?
Ooh.
I've seen some videos of that. It looks pretty ill.
Yeah, it's really I love Olympic weightlifting. Not that long ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How did you get into that? Was it a compliment to what you were already doing, or?
To be quite honest, I loved yoga so much, but then when I started working in yoga and like living and breathing and talking about it and teaching it and taking it, it was just like a yoga overload. Like, I need something else to balance this out. We're always talking about the yin and the yang, right? So I thought, okay, what could I do that would relieve stress and, you know, not make me feel like I'm working? Because I would go to a yoga class and be like, oh, I loved how the teacher did that, or ooh, I didn't like that, I won't do that in my class. Or you just notice things. I feel like I could never just flick the switch and just be Candace taking a yoga class. It was always Candace taking notes for the future and what I would or would not do, or something I want to write about, or whatever. So I just wanted an outlet, and I've always been really into working out. Like I said, one of my very first jobs was at a gym when I was in high school. So I've always had a base knowledge of what to do to be in shape in terms of conventional like weightlifting or whatever. But Olympic weightlifting just came a few years ago for me, and it was just a really great way to burn off stress and anxiety and just focus. So I feel like Olympic weightlifting in particular is a lot like yoga. Like, if you go into it and your head is a mess, your practice or your lift is not going to be great. You need to kind of flick that switch, turn your thoughts off, and then approach it with reverence and have respect for the barbell or the yoga mat or whatever it is you're getting on. And for me, it's more, I don't think anything. Like, when I work out, I don't think about what I got to do later, what happened earlier. I just focus on the task at hand and just breathing and getting through it. And that's a lot like how my yoga practices go for me personally.
And that's something that has always just been a natural part of how you approach that? And
yeah.
Like, what have been some of the challenges or the struggles in getting to that place? You mentioned, not being able to flip the switch and kind of just take a yoga class. Always thinking and kind of planning and looking ahead.
Yeah, well, I still can't really take a yoga class without thinking about other things or what I would do or learning. Or it's always, to me, it's work. It's work I enjoy, but it's still work to me. So I guess that's why I'm so into Olympic weightlifting and working out right now.
Cool. And then that brings on a whole bunch of other comments, that, annoying comments about body type.
Believe it or not, some women do not want to look like a 90s supermodel where you're super thin, you're like Kate Moss thin and just like very tall and lanky. And some people naturally look like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. So don't body shame the 90s model, and don't body shame a girl with curves, and don't body shame, a woman who lifts weights. Like, just stop. It's not, people's bodies are not there for you to comment on, period, end of story.
Yeah. You're a lifestyle blogger, and a lot of what makes YBC so attractive is really you. Like you said, you're a one-woman show. It's a personality. It's kind of just the way you carry yourself. It's the things that you speak to just in your natural way of being that people connect with. When you meet people like at retreats or at workshops, when you meet people who know you through the internet,
yeah,
right, like that very weird kind of
yeah.
world. I remember you reading about, sort of feeling like you know people, but also feeling like people feel like they know you more than they actually do because,
right. Yeah, I get that a lot. I got it today at the workshop. She said, I feel like I know you. The internet's a weird place, especially when your business is kind of built on you as the central person. And I think if I were to do it over, I wouldn't call it Yoga by Candace. I would come up with something else. Not something where I'm the main person. Just because, God forbid something happened to me, like Yoga by Candace would be dead. But if I had called it, something else that were more open, and I could have other teachers who teach my style, or other writers, or, not to say I can't, but Yoga by Candace has a lot to do with Candace. So, anyway, my point is the internet is a weird place when your business is focused on you as the person, you as the brand. One of the things I've tried really hard to do is just be myself in front of the camera, or in a blog, or at a retreat, whatever. I'm not putting on an act or being somebody I'm not. So I think in a lot of ways people, they do kind of know who I am. But there are things, I want to keep private, like relationships or, family problems or whatever. And those are things that I'm not going to share on the blog. And they don't know that about me. And those might be issues that are prominent in my life at times. So, yeah, it's just a weird place.
It's a strange line to navigate.
Yeah.
Has there been, does anything stand out in memory about figuring that line out for yourself as you sort of saw things starting to grow in terms of your business?
Well, I recently got divorced, and my ex-husband was like front and center with my blog, and he was there at a lot of retreats. He did my photography, he did my videography and video editing. It was hard to have him be such a big part of the business and then kind of have to, I almost felt like I had to explain, or I had to like make an announcement or tell people like, hey, I got divorced, so it just felt like, God, I wish I didn't even have to go here, because I wasn't ashamed, but it was just like I'm dealing with my own stuff, and I don't also want to have to like figure out how to say it to people who are following, but you kind of feel like you owe them an explanation because without them, I'm nothing, so I do feel like I had to say something, and I did, and it was fine. I'm currently dating, and I'm super happy, but the relationship is I'm not putting that on Instagram. I'm not talking about that on my blog. That's separate. And I've learned, I think through my divorce, that when you are, and this isn't even to say that like I have such a huge following that I need to think about these things, but when I guess no matter what kind of business I have, even if you're a teacher, school teacher, like you present yourself every day exactly as you are, but you have your own private life, and you don't necessarily want to or need to share that with your kids or with your fellow teachers. So it's just kind of figuring out that boundary line and deciding what's what and how it needs to go in order to work for you.
What are some things you like to do that have nothing to do with yoga or working out or just physical health or blogging, all the things that you do? What else do you like to do?
I love hanging out with my dog. He is like the sweetest guy. He's a Siberian Husky. He just turned 9. I love reading, and I like experimenting in the kitchen. Like I'm famous for throwing together cookies that they're like healthy-ish cookies because they have healthy ingredients. Like I'll use coconut flour or Manuka honey to sweeten it. sometimes I win and sometimes it tastes like cardboard. But I like experimenting and I hate following a recipe.
You said that when you did the teacher training, and then I don't know if you said when you actually were doing videos and blogging, if you were still kind of coming out of that period of illness.
Yeah.
Do you remember like the first videos you were making, sort of some of the things that were going through your head as you were, navigating this new world and trying this new thing, but also still dealing with the tail end of, this really difficult experience?
Yeah, I mean, I went into the doctor with 22 symptoms, and when I finished the teacher training, I had one symptom, which was joint pain. So I was still dealing with a lot of that.
What were some of the other symptoms?
Like light sensitivity, noise sensitivity, heart racing, random rashes, intense extreme anxiety, insomnia, night terrors, night sweats, like brain fog. I could like see that you were talking to me and I could hear that you were talking to me, but it felt like, if you ever watch like an old school video, like on a VCR, and the audio is a little bit off, that's how it felt when I was talking to people. Like it was taking a second to understand what they were saying. I wasn't able to formulate thoughts and get them out in a timely manner. And it was like super scary because I knew what I wanted to say, but it took me 10 seconds to get it out. And it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but it takes me 1 second to just say, I knew what I wanted to say, but that would have taken me, a full minute. Yeah. So it was very scary. But anyway, at the very end, I had exactly one symptom, which was joint pain. And now I realize that was directly linked to poor gut health. So when I was filming my first videos, I was like, ouch, this hurts, my joints hurt, everything hurts. And you almost feel like a fraud because you're up there filming as like this person who's supposed to have it together as a health person, a yoga person, and I just didn't. But then I did a lot of gut healing, and now I don't have any pain. Yay!
Cool. What was that process like? So I know very little about Lyme. I've done a little bit of reading about it in preparation for this. Mm-hmm. I've had some people in my family where they were going through different health issues, and you go through that trial and error process of trying to figure out what it is, and like it's been suggested, you should get tested for Lyme. Right. And then through that, I learned that you have to go to like a special place, and there are only certain people that are specialized to test for that, and that it's kind of controversial. And what about that whole kind of idea and your own experience with it? Would you like people to know who don't know anything about it, or who fall into that sort of camp that go, that's just one of those made up things?
Well, I can tell you right now, it's not a made up thing. I mean, in hindsight, and with everything that I've learned from gut health, I think that my personal biggest error was not taking care of my gut. My immune system was already compromised because I had poor gut health due to being the world's worst vegan/vegetarian, in that I barely ate, and when I did eat, it was like highly processed fake chicken nuggets or like, spaghetti squash with, I don't know, something on it. I just didn't really eat. I just didn't care. I cared about being skinny. Mm-hmm. And I didn't care about nutrition, and I didn't realize, how damaging that is for your gut to pretty much essentially starve yourself. I didn't know about things like soaking your beans. If you're going to have beans as protein, you need to soak them overnight. If you're going to have grains, you need to have them sprouted. Otherwise, they're really, really hard for your body to digest if you have a compromised gut. So in being vegan/vegetarian on and off for 13 years, I had a really, really poor immune system. And then
So that was prior to getting sick?
That was prior to getting sick.
So you already had this immune system from,
that was compromised.
From the fake chicken nuggets and
and
the bean sprouts.
Exactly. No, the beans.
The beans, sorry.
Not being sprouted, which is when you soak it and then wash them and soak them again. And it's a process. It's very hard work to be a healthy vegetarian. And if anybody is a vegetarian out there, I would encourage them to read the book Vegetarianism Explained by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, because that explains how all the stuff you need to do to have optimal health as a vegetarian, to take care of your gut. So anyway, I had a compromised gut, and then I contracted Lyme disease, and I didn't know it, and I went from doctor to doctor to doctor, and finally, 8 months down the line, I was tested for Lyme disease, and it tested positive. So,
and that's when they test for that, that's like a bacteria or something like that?
There are lots of ways to test for it. For me, they did a urine test, and it was like I had die-off of the spirochetes in the urine or something, so I guess that must have meant that I came up negative. I had false negatives, I guess. for many tests. Yeah, like it came up negative, but I actually had Lyme disease for other tests. But for this one urine test, it was like a protein test or something, I came up positive. And, often the protocol is to go on antibiotics for a long time. And that's why it's very controversial. It's because, insurance companies won't cover it. So I had to pay out of pocket, and many doctors don't want to put their name on the line because it's not healthy to take antibiotics for a long period of time.
Especially if you already have a compromised immune system.
Exactly. Yeah? So I was on antibiotics for like a year and a half, a little bit more or so, and there was a point where I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore, and I went off of it, and I started looking into more holistic approach, more homeopathic approaches. And that's when I realized that while 21 of my 22 symptoms were gone, I still had that joint health, and what could I do for that? And then... Which
is really kind of connected to some of the habits and sort of ways of being before all
exactly.
of that, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Definitely connected. And then when I realized, okay, I have a compromised gut, what do I do for that? So then I followed the GAPS diet, which is from Gut and Psychology Syndrome. It's a book, again, by Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. And she's a doctor who focuses on healing from the inside out, focuses on healing with food, which is what I love about nutritional therapy practitioners, like the one that we have for the yoga teacher training, Carly Smith of fairygutmother.com. They really try to approach and treat the root cause of your issues rather than the symptoms. I think a lot of us are looking for a quick Band-Aid to put on everything that ails us, and we're not interested in doing the long-term work and getting to the root cause. So the GAPS diet was a short-term diet. It's about 2 years is the maximum you should be on it. So I did the 2 years because I really needed it. And it healed and sealed the gut lining so that your body is in better shape and better able to kind of take care of yourself. But then after that, there's often like a hormonal imbalance. So that's where I'm at now. I was trying to balance that and just making sure that everything I eat is really balanced is the best way I can explain it.
Yeah.
So I think I'm still on a path to healing, but I am so much better. I'm doing everything that I've always wanted to do. I'm traveling, I'm working, when stressful things happen, I can manage them. Before, if stressful things happened, I would like physically get sick. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a long road to recovery, but it's been my biggest blessing because without it, it was a catalyst for, all the things I wanted to do, but felt like I'm not ready, or, so.
I was trying to find it when we first sat down. There's another passage in your book that I highlighted where you were meeting with somebody in some of your follow-up care for Lyme, and there was an exchange where you were basically saying like screaming at her in your head to say, like, stop seeing me through your Lyme goggles.
She had like a tunnel vision.
Yeah, tunnel vision, that was the term.
I said, I have 21 of my 22. Yeah, see me as the whole person.
And I think she said something like, well, Lyme can come back or something like that.
Right.
And then I think the end of that passage was you squinted your eyes and said something like, we'll see about that.
Yeah. I think fear is obviously we always want to do our best to protect ourselves from any danger, but I think fear plays into a lot of this stuff that you watch a commercial for medicine and it's like, well, you might have this, so take this pill. This pill may cause death, but take it anyway. It's like, well, maybe you should just look at the root cause of what's going on, not just take this quick fix to deal with the symptom, which may cause other symptoms. You know what I mean? Which may diminish your whole quality of life anyway. Like, I really want to urge people to get to the root cause of what ails them and stay persistent and be an advocate for yourself and your own health. And, you can only live your best life when you feel great. So why not go after that than just the quick fix?
Yoga meaning union. What does union mean to you?
Just in that we're all in this together. Like, I'm not special, you're not special. I'm not dealing with any major
special.
that you that other people have not dealt with. It goes back to that same thing where like there isn't an emotion on this earth that you could feel that somebody else on this planet hasn't already felt as well. Like, you're never ever ever alone. And I think the whole spirit of yoga is about, just being together and understanding that we're all in this together, this human experience that is life.
Looking back at yourself when you first started this journey that you're on, and being in a place now where your health is recovered, you're doing all the things you ever want to do, you are doing the things that you sort of conceived of and conceptualized in a really dark, difficult time in your life. and now to see yourself not only moving through that period, but also doing the things that you believed that you would do, but to actually get there, to actually be doing them, and seeing your dreams come true. Is there something that, if you could go back to Candace at that point, if there was any advice you could offer, or if there's anything, say, hey, that thing, you don't do that, like, any stumbles that you had along the way, or things that you wished you had known?
No, I mean, I really don't believe in regret. I think that everything that I've experienced, even the Lyme disease, even going into debt to get a master's degree only to find that you're not using it. Like, I have a master's degree in education. I don't teach school, right? I think all of those things were vital to getting me to where I am here. And all of the things that have happened to me that are negative experiences, I always try to look at them through a lens of, well, what can I learn from that? Or how can I grow from that? Or how can I implement those lessons into, future things that I do? I think that's the only way to live. If I were to look back and say, oh, don't do that, or oh, watch out for that, then I don't think I would have appreciated where I am now if I hadn't experienced what I'd experienced in the past.
Would you have listened to yourself at that time? If Candace from the future flashback and said,
probably
listen,
not.
Yeah, or to be more like your mom, like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that attitude and that resilience and that spirit and that willingness to move outside of your comfort zone, to challenge yourself, to always grow and learn new things. I think that's something that I connect with very much about what you do, and I think that's probably something that a lot of people connect with. And thanks for doing this.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
I hope it wasn't terrible.
It was not terrible.
It was a little terrible for me. I was very, very nervous.
Oh my gosh, stop. It's fine. It's totally fine. We are all just getting through it,
That's true.
Everything that we do that we're kind of dreading or like nervous about or whatever, it's just, again, just part of the human experience. Like, that was nothing that I haven't experienced before. Like, seeing you sweat and be nervous at the beginning, like, I've been there. It's fine.
Yeah.
It happens. You don't have to apologize for it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
I want to thank Candace for being my guest on this episode of Blind Spots, and just for being an inspiring person in general. I really admire what you do, and you've helped me tremendously, so thank you. You can learn more about her at her website, yogabycandace.com. Also, her book Namaste is available through Amazon.com, at Barnes & Noble, several other major retailers, and of course the YouTube channel, Yoga by Candace. I'd also like to thank Pure Yoga West for their gracious hospitality and allowing us to record this conversation in their beautiful space. And I'd like to thank you for listening. This is Mike McCusker for Blind Spots. Take care.
But I want you all the more for that. Words fall through me and always fool me, and I can't react. Games that never amount to more than they're meant will play themselves out. Take this sinking boat and point it home. We've still got time. Raise your hopeful voice. You have a choice. You make it now. Falling slowly, eyes that know me, and I can't go back. Moods that chase me, about you, all the more for that.
What a trip. What's your favorite quote?
Oh. Discipline is remembering